This video is property of NBKP International LLC. In this video I'm going to show you how to adjust manual stack paper cutters. Like this is the stack paper cutter here. We also have the Perfect G12 and G17 paper cutters. They look a little different than this, but it'd be the same adjustment on those as well. This is the Stack S12. So again, this video would work for the Stack S12, the Perfect G12 Pro, and the Perfect G17 Pro. And I'm just going to show you how to adjust the angle of this backstop in case your paper cutter is not cutting perfectly straight. Some people need precision on these things, and although you can never get 100% precision, you can get fairly close on a manual paper cutter. Basically, if you take a stack of paper cutter and you slide it in here, or stack of paper, I'm sorry, and you slide it in here, you put it at like the 7-inch mark, clamp it down and cut it. And then when you're done cutting, you take that out, and one side's 7 inches and the other side's say 6 and 15/16 or something, or 6 and 7/8. So it's off slightly. But basically, when you put this paper and you line it up against this back paper stop, that's going to be the one thing you may need to adjust. But first, the one thing you would want to check first is just make sure you're clamping the clamp tight enough. Because if you don't clamp the clamp tight enough, some of them have the bar that clamp down like this. If you don't clamp it tight enough, the stack could shift while you're cutting. Okay. Another thing could cause it is if you have a dull blade. So you may need to change your blade if it's having problems with that, because the blade has a hard time going through it. So it's really hard for it, and it may cause the stack to shift a little bit, causing the paper not to be cut perfectly. So basically, you want to make sure you have a sharp blade. You want to make sure it's clamping down hard enough, and if both those things are good, then you want to you may need to adjust this back paper stop here. Now you can see it's kind of lined up on the grid. You can kind of see if it's lined up perfectly or not. But if you need to adjust this, basically the angle of this, because when you put this in here manually, it's only going to cut the paper as straight as you put it in here. So again, it's only going to cut the paper as straight as this is. So it has nothing to do with the paper cutter being bad or anything if it's not cutting perfectly straight, because the blade on these things, they're set in a fixed position. They're going up and down in the exact same place every time. So if it's not cutting straight, either it's slipping because you're not clamping it tight enough, or the blade's too dull, or this thing is not perfectly set. So, and if it's off a 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch, you just barely need to adjust this. It's a very slight amount. And here's what you do to adjust it. First, you'd want to loosen this up. You don't want this binding in any way. In fact, it's better just to take it off and leave it off to the side like that. And then you lift these up, and typically there's 5 bolts here. So you take it, in this case I think they're 10 millimeters, and you take and you loosen all 5 of these. You only need to loosen them slightly, just a few turns on each one, and middle one maybe just slightly, because you can rotate that on the middle. But once you get them all slightly loosened, I'm going to just tighten it back up, because this one doesn't need adjusted. Make sure they're all snug. But once you get them all loosened slightly, a few turns, you can take this down. And then you can adjust this. It got a little bit of play in each of the holes, so this will adjust very slightly whichever way you need it to. And the way I found best to do it is just take something with a soft rubber handle on it. Could be even a rubber mallet. And once you get these all loose, you just tap it the way you need to, and you can see if it moves by the line on the grid. Whichever way it's out of whack, you may need to tap it over here. But just do a little bit at a time, and then test your paper. And then once you get it right, you can tighten those screws back up. If you loosen them too much, this will be too wobbly. So just loosen them slightly, just so you can just tap it a little bit and slightly move it. And then once you get it, adjust it correctly, then you can tighten those screws back down. But again, this is a manual paper cutter. All manual paper cutters, it's only going to be as accurate as you can line it up. So it's up to the user how well they line it up against this grid and how well they clamp it. And this right here, how well this is lined up. So if yours is off by a 1/16 of an inch, and that means something to you, you can just adjust it here the way I showed you, because these blades are in a fixed position. It has nothing to do with the blade. They come down the same spot every time. So it'd be this back paper stop you need to adjust. This video is property of NBKP International LLC.